When you're watching the PGA Tour or DP World Tour, isn't it just awesome? You see all the tour players strike the ball effortlessly, hit the ball a mile, and they play some incredible golf from the tee all the way to the green. But one of the most interesting things about all this is that every single one swings the club completely different. You'll get players like Adam Scott that will get themselves into the textbook positions, making his way into the backswing, all the way up to the very top of the golf swing, and then the downswing is just a reverse of the backswing. Everything's perfectly on plane. Then you'll see other tour players where they'll get to the top of the golf swing by swinging on the outside and then getting pretty high at the top of the golf swing. You'll get others that will swing quite low on the inside and get flat at the top of the golf swing. And the main reason why they're able to play so many great golf shots from these different golf swings is because the downswing is very consistent. Their downswing, whether they swing on the outside, inside or on plane, they all bring the club down into the perfect slot, getting the club into the perfect delivery position to be able to strike the back of that golf ball with a square club face, and then hitting the ball, then getting that turf, that compressed strike afterwards. So what I want to discuss with you today is the method that you should be copying, the easiest method that you should be copying that's going to allow you to get into this slot more consistently and deliver the golf club to the back of the ball without having to manipulate anything last minute. So for those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. I'm Harry, a golf teacher professional, posting content like this every single week. So consider clicking that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any other videos. And make sure you do comment down below of what you would like to see next. So let me just start off by talking through the three main methods to take the club into the backswing. Kicking things off with the first one being the club swinging quite far on the inside, where we tend to see the club head itself get behind the hands at the parallel points in the takeaway position here, or the club even further behind the body. Now what's going to happen from this point here is the temptation for golfers to start making the way round more. So this tends to happen when we get a lot of lateral rotation of the shoulders. The shoulders work on a lateral motion like this here, and that encourages that takeaway on the inside, and we continue to swing round, and we tend to get this quite flat and laid off position at the very top of the golf swing. Now what's going to happen from this point to get ourselves into the slot is we're going to have to react. Tour professionals will react in a way that encourages the club to be thrown back out into the slot. If they do this a little bit too much, if you were to try this and do this a little bit too much, that would cause the club to push out and potentially get that over-the-top downswing taking place. So it's a little bit of a risk and reward situation with this one, where if you get to the top and you're able to bring this club back out, just out in front of the body, just in time into this delivery position, you're going to be a very consistent player. But if you swing lateral in a way that encourages you to react and push the club too far out, then you're going to have to do all sorts of compensations last minute. The second one is all to do with the outside takeaway. When we swing quite far on the outside, this is usually caused by the arms moving very much so far away from the body, where both of the arms here get quite disconnected to start off the golf swing. Now I know I'm exaggerating that move a little bit there, but you get the point when you can see there that that's causing my arms to get quite disconnected to the body. So what happens from there is when the arms get a little bit disconnected is that they get very high at the top of the golf swing. So if the arms are very high at the very top of the golf swing, they're not as disconnected as this rounded one from the first move into the backswing that we spoke about. What do we think the reaction is going to be? The reaction is going to be, well, the temptation is to either bring it back down this way, or we try and time this and get it down into the slot this way. And from there, if we do this action a little bit too much, the club can get a little bit stuck and trapped on the inside, especially the trail arm here, so my right arm as a right-handed player. As I rotate now, that can get a little bit stuck. I've got to do a big compensation last minute there to try and hit a decent golf shot. If you can time this and get the hands ever so slightly in front of the body there with the arm in that great delivery position, then it's much easier to obviously strike the golf ball. The third method is the textbook method that we see, as I mentioned, Adam Scott at the start of the video, where he'll make his way into the top of the golf swing by having this really nice combination of the arms lifting on an upward motion as the body rotates on a lateral motion, which encourages that 50-50 effect with the club getting into this position here, where we see the club shaft perfectly on plane. The club not on the outside or inside. The club here is pretty much covering the hands. Then as he makes his way into the top of the backswing, hands are pretty much directly in front of his chest here. And then they work up into a more neutral backswing position, not too high or too low. So the reaction there, the simple reaction, is to make our way back down on that same angle. You'll tend to see players, including myself actually, where we'll get to the top of the swing and tend to shallow this motion out a little bit, but it's pretty much working. The hands are pretty much working on that same path as we make our way down into this delivery position. Having a look at those three methods, which one do you think is going to be the simpler method to copy? It's going to be the final one. Reason being is that you're not going to have to rely as much on getting the reactions to take place in your downswing, and you're not going to have to focus on trying to time those movements either. This is why tour players, a lot of them that swing very much so on plane, are able to swing so fast, because they're able to get into the perfect positions to make this golf swing work. It's going to really help you get the club into the great positions that we see the textbook golf swings on tour do. Adam Scott, Rory McIlroy, Tommy Fleetwood as well. I could go on. And the key is this first part here and the second part up to the top of the golf swing. So let's take a look at the takeaway first. So this is a drill that I've given a lot of my students that have come down to see me here in person and also online. If you are interested in more personalized coaching, by the way, you can check out the links in the description below. So I've got an alignment stick here. I'm going to place this on the lead side of the grip here with the majority of the stick hanging away from me like this. So when I grip onto the golf club here, it's resting nice and tightly on the lead side, and I'm placing this stick under my lead arm so it's touching the lead side of my body just like this here. Now when I step into the golf ball, it's going to feel a little bit strange to start off with, because it's going to feel like I'm having to forward my hands a lot more just to counteract with the stick being on the club here. And that's absolutely fine when it comes to taking this off and trying this without it. We don't need to worry about forwarding the hands anywhere near as much. Go back to what you would normally do. But in this position here, if I was to swing quite far on the outside, we can see that that stick moves away from my left side. We can see as well that if I was to work the club more on the inside, on this lateral motion, the stick moves away from the body as well. So what we want to be able to do is simply keep this stick touching the left side of the body up until pretty much a point just before parallel with the ground. So this here is what we would call P1 position in the golf swing, position 1. And as you make your way into position 2, the stick will want to should naturally move ever so slightly away from the body here. So the key is if we can nail that position 1 as we take the club back, that should make the rest of that takeaway much easier to get into that position that I mentioned, where we see the club pretty much covering the hands from that side on view. So when I practice this back and forth, for me it feels like I'm having to use a lot more of my shoulders, my arms, less so of my wrists and hands. One of the most common things for the club to move on the outside or inside is actually the way the wrists move in the golf swing. So for me, when I do this, it almost feels like I'm keeping a letter Y structure between the club shaft and both of my arms, as you can see here. Picture that perfect Y from this face on view, and as you take that back, you're just trying to keep that Y as you keep the alignment stick touching the left side of the body. So for me here, my trail shoulder is certainly working a lot more upwards. That's what it feels like to me. My right arm and left arm, both of my arms, are staying nice and stable, fairly straight. My lead shoulder is working on a downward motion, and that's just allowing me to set the club into this position here. Then once I get to this point, I can just simply allow that stick just to move away from the body, and that makes it much easier for me to set the club into that first point. So when you try this, I'd recommend getting yourself an alignment stick and trying this straight away, because it feels different for everyone. For me, it feels like I'm using a lot of my shoulders, my arms, but for some golfers, when I've taught them this, to them it feels like they're using their upper back muscles to take the club back. Some have said it feels like they're using just their lead arm only to take the club back, their trail arm only in the backswing. So as long as you do this movement and you do this correctly by just watching this video again and just rehearsing that movement, as you take the club back into this first part here, close your eyes, you can do, and just go, right, okay, where's that coming from? Is it coming from the right shoulder lifting up, left shoulder going down? Whatever it may be that's working that club into the position, that's the thought for you to take on board when you practice this without the stick. So what I would recommend is doing at least 30, 40 practice drills, just getting that position there back and forth, closing your eyes on a few, just to develop your understanding of what it feels like to you, because everyone, like I said, is totally different. Now I'm going to take this alignment stick away, and all I'm going to do now for the final part of this is just to rehearse that movement just a couple of more times, just to that position there. Don't need to worry about my hands getting too far ahead here. Now I can just place the club back as normal. Still the feeling of keeping that Y up to that first point and just letting it go to that second point there. That's the takeaway. So you can start by hitting just a couple of chip shots back and forth, keeping that structure as well on the way through is a really nice bonus tip just for this, just to help you control that low point and hit the back of the golf ball first, then the turf afterwards. And then from there you can build this up into bigger golf swings, but more importantly, ever so slightly faster golf swings, just to get the feel for this takeaway. So we've got the takeaway working on playing. How do we build this up into the top of the golf swing? Now, how we build this up is very simple. I want you to think of the trail arm as the arm that sets the clubs into the necessary positions, and the lead arm as the guide to get the club into the necessary positions. As I make my way into that first part of the golf swing, feeling that motion there up to the parallel point, from this point here, I want you to imagine one thing in particular is taking place from the arms. Lead arm is staying nice and stable. We don't need to worry about that one. That's just there now to guide it. The trail arm is the one that has to fold to get the club in the right position. So what I want you to imagine is that as you take the club into that first part of the golf swing, everything's staying fairly straight. Both arms are fairly straight. The right arm can flex a little bit if you do find that is the case. When you get into this point here though, to get to the top of the golf swing, your lead arm wants to continue to stay straight as your trail arm begins to flex. Flex in a way almost like you're doing a bicep curl, like a hammer curl they call it in the gym. So that bicep curler, that action there is what I want you to feel as you make your way up to the top of the golf swing. Now I can't stress enough that some golfers won't need to feel like they're folding this right arm at all. Some golfers will need to feel like they're doing this almost to the point where they're getting their trail hand to nearly touch their right shoulder. The reason being is everyone's different, everyone swings differently. So if you find that you're getting too much of this flexion in your right arm, you should find you're in some sort of position like this. Well, to get out of that, you've got to feel like your right arm is dead straight. So you can simply continue that takeaway and make your way up to the top of the golf swing and get into pretty much the perfect position. I've had a few students struggle with getting too much right arm flexion at the top of the golf swing, and we've had to literally feel that exact drill on the way up to the top. If you'd like to learn more about that video, I'll get it up at the end screen for you. So that can be the case for some golfers. Other golfers, it could be the case that they don't get enough of this right arm flexion, so they have to feel like they're over here. Film yourself again, have a look at your swing. If you'd like me to check up on it again, you can send them over online. I can check them and guide you to the right feel for this that will work better for you. But film yourself, practice either way. How the right arm should work on the way back from this position here is simply a gradual fold, a gradual bicep curl up to the top. Now, when you're set into this position here, one final thing has got to take place, and that is the rotation. So many golfers have tried this in the past and they've just forced their right arm to bend up to the top of the golf swing, sometimes bending too much because they haven't applied rotation. If we haven't applied rotation to get to the top of the golf swing, I've got to do all sorts. My left arm starts to bend there, which isn't so good. So I'm going to allow, as I allow this arm to fold and get that bicep curl, I'm also going to encourage my back to face towards the target. I'm just trying to get this to face directly towards my target line here. So I'm going to make my way up to the top of the golf swing, so nice and slow for this point, gradual fall of the right arm back to target. And that there gets me set up in a really nice, successful, but also consistent backswing position from start to finish. So then when I react, I'm not going to want to throw the club out. I'm not going to want to shallow the club too much on the downswing. I'm actually going to want to bring the club back perfectly down on plane. And that way is what's going to make you a way more consistent golfer. If you can get into those simple positions, make your way up to the top of the golf swing and combine those two with those feels of keeping that letter Y, then right arm folds as you get the back to face towards the target. That's just a really nice simple thing you can practice at the driving range, focus on, and that'll make the rest of your golf swing so much easier. Pretty nice strike there, a little bit of a push, but overall happy with that shot and golf swing. Now, we haven't covered anything at all about the transition, how they should work for the downswing and all the way through to the finish. So if you would like to see a video on that topic, feel free to comment down below with that saying, yes, please, I'd like to see a video on the transition and the downswing. I'd like to see at least 50 comments down below. And if we get to that number, I will happily do that video for you as a part 2. In the meantime, make sure you check out this video over to the right-hand side of your screen, which is the video where I mentioned before about some players who really struggle with getting too much right arm flexion. Something to look out for potentially if you are someone that gets that massive overswing at the top of the golf swing. Great video for that topic, crazy method, but it did work for 2 of my students. Subscribe as well if you have come this far, as it does help me produce more content like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you either in that video over there or another video in the near future.